I wonder if anyone here has ever seen a wedding held late at night. It was October 1985. Shortly after graduating, I got a teaching job in Guangzhou. Since the school term had just started, there was a lot of work to do. It was already late at night, but I was still grading papers. The heavy workload left me exhausted, and I even felt an inexplicable tightness in my chest. After he took a sip of water, I rubbed my furrowed brows and prepared to finish the rest of my work in one go. But then the clock struck midnight. Suddenly, my eyelids felt incredibly heavy, as if I had no strength left at all. My head sank, and I couldn't help but fall asleep. I was half asleep when a noise came from outside the window. I was jolted awake by the sound. Listening carefully, it sounded like Suona horns. Who's making noise in the middle of the night? I muttered in annoyance, not thinking much of it. I just assumed some old man nearby was practicing the Suona. After all, we were in an old neighborhood, so such things weren't too strange. I turned back to my work, but the noise continued non-stop, growing irritating. What's more, the Suona seemed to be getting closer, mixed with hurried footsteps. The messy sounds were unusually clear in the quiet night, really getting on my nerves. I couldn't stand it any longer. I got up and walked to the window, wanting to see who was disturbing people so late at night. But when I opened the window, I froze. Somehow, fog had rolled into the late night treat. Out of the mist, a group of figures slowly approached. The Suona and footsteps were coming from them. At the front were two men in red robes, playing the Suona. It was actually a wedding procession. Yet there was not a trace of joy about them. They looked utterly eerie. The procession kept moving forward, and the scene in the fog gradually became clearer. Puzzled, I leaned against the window, unable to resist my curiosity, and moved closer to see better. But I immediately regretted it, because this procession didn't seem human at all. The figures of the wedding party were blurry, they had no physical bodies. The big red sedan chair they carried was empty inside. I let out a startled cry. Realizing what I'd done, I quickly covered my mouth and hid, terrified of alerting them. I was shaking all over, drenched in cold sweat. Then the sounds outside suddenly stopped. I peeked out of the corner of my eye, and to my horror, the wedding procession was staring right at my window. I quickly looked away and huddled in the corner. Thankfully, after a short while, the Suona started up again, followed by the sound of footsteps. They seemed to be walking away. Finally, I plucked up the courage to quietly look out. They were gone. Only then did I dare to let out a long breath. But then, unbelievably, the procession stopped right in front of a burned-out ruin diagonally across from my place. One by one, their figures faded in the fog until they vanished completely. Staring at the charred ruins, it suddenly hit me. Right, today was the 7th day. Although it was now just broken tiles and rubble, just 7 days earlier, this had been Chengsu Building, a time-honored restaurant famous all over Guangzhou. On that night, a newlywed couple had held their wedding bank on the 3rd floor. It was one of the largest celebrations in the area. The whole 3rd floor was packed with guests. Then disaster struck. As guests were enjoying the wedding feast, a panicked shout came from the stairs. Immediately, a man rushed up in terror, flailing his arms and screaming, Fire! Everyone looked toward the stairs. The flames had already spread, and thick smoke blocked the exit. Outside the window, red fear light flickered. It was obvious the fire was fierce. Chaos erupted instantly. Screams, cries, and shouts filled the air. It was like hell on earth. By the time fire trucks arrived and put out the fire, the entire restaurant had been reduced to ruins. Everyone old in Guangzhou knows that power cuts were common in the 1980s, because electricity demand was so high. On the day of the wedding banquet, the power went out. So the owner installed a generator at the bottom of the 1st floor stairs. But that generator caused the tragedy. For some unknown reason, it caught fire, igniting the wooden stairs of the building and trapping everyone inside. Once I realized the true identity of that wedding procession, I cowered under my blankets, trembling with fear, and didn't dare stick my head out until dawn. The story of that night spread quickly. It wasn't because I was talkative. More than 100 people on the street had all seen that eerie wedding procession.